A civil group, that's the People's Alternative Political Movement, has rejected in totality the sudden increase in the price of gas, fuel, as well as electricity tariff. While speaking at the 10th anniversary of Occupy Nigeria, the People's Alternative Political Movement is calling on the APC-led Federal Government to resign from its position if it cannot revamp the nation's refineries. The group also urged Nigerians to reject any political party and their candidates who do not have any practical, fundable and believable program to resolve the energy crisis.
The combined implication of all this is that Nigerians would further be impoverished. Businesses, in particular small and medium-scale businesses, will struggle to survive. They will lay off staff and even they will close up. What ruling class regimes and their economists continue to refer to as subsidy, under recovery, and so on, is in fact the outcome of the failure and incompetence of the ruling class in general, and the current regime in particular, to ensure that as an oil-producing country, we have adequate domestic refining capacity. The problem is really simple. For as long as we don't have domestic refining capacity, as long as we continue to import, as long as our currency continues to be floated against the dollar, for so long shall we continue to have a differential between the landing cost and the pump price. Despite all this investment and these failures, no one has been held accountable.
Well, to discuss this further, social activist and secretary of the People's Alternative Political Movement, Jaye Gaskiya, joins us now to actually have this conversation. Thank you, Jaye, for being here with me in the studio. And just listening to you talk about, the issues of Nigeria. This is the normal thing that, every Nigerian is facing with the increment in the price of everything, despite seeing the unemployment ratio at over 33% and looking at the minimum wage controversies. But you know what? This is the 10th anniversary of the Occupy Nigeria movement, where we saw Nigerians en masse hit the street. But 10 years after, we're still having the same challenges. Isn't that we've not made any progress since then?
First, thank you for having me. Now, that's why what's happening right now is really very amazing and mind-boggling. So in 10 years, since 2012, we're still talking about the same issues. We're still talking about the same problems, the same factors. In 2012, we were talking about capacity utilization of the refineries being under 30%. In 2022, we are talking about 0% capacity utilization.
Well, money has been earmarked for the refurbishment of both Kaduna and Port Harcourt refineries last year.
Last year, 1.5 billion. But between 2012 and last year, $9.5 billion have actually been spent on turnaround maintenance of these refineries. Nothing has been turned around. And that's why we are asking this question. Look, if you set up a business and you employ a management for the business and you invest money, you borrow money, you invest money, and it's making a loss, what you do is you sack the management. In fact, and if you then discover that, for example, there's been fraud or the rest of that, you also make sure that prosecuted.
So are you
Nothing has been happened.
Are you saying, the president did sign the PIA last year, and we've seen a management board for the NNPC just constituted just barely days ago. So are you saying that the NNPC now becoming a company where we can make profit, you don't think it's far-reaching enough, really, to help us see the change we need in the oil sector? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that given the backlog of the mess that we have had in the sector, if we don't clear that mess, this new management is simply just going to be walking into a trap or just doing business as usual. Now, what is the incentive for this new management to actually perform?
Make profit for the Nigerian public.
Yeah, but that was also what previous managements were meant to do. And they didn't perform, and there was no punishment, there was no sanction. So unless you sanction people, so the point we're making is that you invest 9.5 billion, nothing is working. That means money down the drain. That means some people mismanaged those resources. What has happened to them? Including political office holders who are also superintending the ministers, members of the National Assembly who are in committees that oversight, the downstream and upstream sectors of the economy. In the last 10 years at least, let's forget from 1999, let's say from 2012, because a major crisis happened in 2012. One would have thought that that a country, a sensible country, would then have tried to change course and to change direction. But nothing has happened.
And of course, this is coming on the heels of several increments that we've seen in the energy sector. What exactly is going on there?
Now, so the energy crisis is the same thing. And everything comes from this logic, the received logic now of Nigeria's ruling class, which is this neoliberal economic theory about comparative advantage, about being good. I mean, in general, the theory is a good theory because it says that you should invest in what you are good at. But then, those who developed the theory have also said that what we are good at is in developing raw materials and then selling the raw materials so that it can then be refined, be turned into manufactured goods abroad. And so the neoliberal policy of comparative advantage has made us to deindustrialize. Let's not forget, 20, 30 years ago, this country was an industrial hub, was an emerging industrial hub. West Africa, all the goods made in Nigeria were flooding West African markets. It was a big manufacturing hub in Africa. All of those industries are comatose now because of the same thing that is happening now. And so that's what is happening now. So you have a situation where the received wisdom is that it makes more sense. And obviously, it makes more money to private pockets to simply take crude, sell it, and then import refined products. Because some people get the contract, some people, there are middlemen and all of that in between, are doing that. And so the energy crisis is because we are not producing. We are not a producing country. We are not a manufacturing country. We are not, we don't add value to raw materials. The same thing with gas. So we set up LPG, we had an LPG program. We set up companies, gas companies to produce LPG, to produce cooking gas for us. And then, again, just like the refineries, it went comatose. We went to NLG, which was supposed to produce for export, and asked them to please, okay, let's produce. So now we have been told now that 100% of what was supposed to be exported will now be used at home in Nigeria.
We have the numbers here on the African continent. Let's not forget, over 200 million people. This is a country where you can actually make money. If you look at China, bulk of what they produce is, consumed in their nation. But you know what, Jaye? Due to the lack of luxury of time, your group, the People's Alternative Political Movement, you say you're a pro-people or a socialist movement. What alternative are you really providing in terms of governance? You've actually called for the president to resign or this administration to go if they're not able to, provide the necessary things that Nigerians need. So what alternative are you proffering really for the people of Nigeria, especially looking at 2023?
Yeah, so especially looking at 2023, part of our demands was, we made certain demands around energy, for instance, and we said for energy. That's why we said, don't vote for any candidate or political party that doesn't have a plan. And so we asked for medium-term plans. We asked for short-term plans. Now, short-term plans, short to medium-term plans. So we say, what does it really take to have local domestic refining capacity? And we are saying public, not private. Because private means, we are creating a monopoly, for instance, with Dangote refineries. Okay? Now, but public, yes, we know that, okay, and many, not one. So we are saying we should have that. And you can do that. Refineries can be built in 2 years. We have said that should be done. The reason why they have not been built is because people have failed to do it and they have not been punished. So there is impunity. And then we have also said that in 10 years' time, the world is transitioning from fossil fuel. We should also have a plan in place, 5, 10, 15-year plan that would transition from fossil fuels. Wow. So I've asked the question, China is a temperate country, and you just mentioned China, and I like the fact that you mentioned China is a temperate country, but China is the leading manufacturer and producer of solar panels. And so, what kind of, we are in the tropics, we sit on the equator.
Absolutely. A lot of things we need to think about. Jaye Gaskiya, the Secretary of the People's Alternative Political Movement, I would have to say thank you so much for joining me tonight on the program.